Good morning, Springfield, Ozarks, and around the world. This is High Octane with Pastor Steve and Cindy. I'm Pastor
Hey,
Steve.
and I'm Cindy.
Oh, and I couldn't hear her. The music was too loud. What was that? I'm Pastor
What?
Steve.
And I said,
What?
I'm Cindy.
Ooh, that's right. This is High Octane. We're at 4166 West Kearney. I don't know why I said the wrong name, but anyway, West Kearney. And ooh, that's some high octane music there. Uh, thank you, Matt. Uh, anyway, we're wrapping up our series in Christianity and sexuality, and we thought we'd kind of smooth things out here. Ooh, almost. Um, we we're going to wrap things up today, and we thought we'd wrap it up with marriage. And Dr. Cindy, the future Dr. Cindy, is going to be teaching us a lot more about marriage than we thought we would. It's going to be a great discussion, Cindy. Uh-oh, no sound. Matthew, I can't hear you, Cindy.
Now? Can you hear
Yes,
me now? Okay.
yes.
I hit a button.
Oops.
Anyway, um, through all the phases that we went through, um, it all roads always lead back to marriage. It all being married. And so when they talk about marriage and sexuality, that's where all of this is allowed to happen. That's what it was created for. The intimacy, you know, um, having, you know, a sexual relationship that was all made for marriage. Now, the enemy came and stole it, spread it out. Society, just ran with it, and they ruined it. The
Yes.
sanctity of marriage, the whole point of the having the white dress was purity, and then when you don't know each other yet, and the word that consummate to consummate the marriage, that's when you've come together as one, and then you get to know each other. Then you're joined spiritually as well as physically. So, um, and in that point, um, that's where your spirits join as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's made for. And let me get my doctor glasses on, my computer glasses. Um, I'm going to read you a few scriptures that
Okay.
pertain to this. And it says in Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Proverbs 18:22. And this is Matthew 19:4-6. And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined, or depending on what uh, version, translation you're reading from, cleave. And cleave means to glue, to adhere, or to stick. So joined, that, so when you think about that, I'm going to pause that for a second. When you think about that, when you leave your mother and father to go be with your husband or wife, you cleave to one another. You're stuck together, you're joined together, you're glued together. The man is to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. And the two shall be oops, so then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined, glued, adhered, stuck together, let no man separate. Again, that's Matthew 19:4 through 6. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 2. Nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Again, that's 1 Corinthians 7, 2. And the last one here is, and I didn't put that down. Marriage is honorable among all, and the bed undefiled. Oh, that's James. But fornicators and adulterers God will judge. And I didn't write that down, that scripture. I will find it before the show ends. But
Okay.
it's in James. So those scriptures I read to you, you can see how all of that relationship, the sexuality, how it was created for man and woman, how it was, and to be so they can become, be together, that they are together. You don't just break, lived. That's why when we talked about, dating and people having, not understanding and having sex and dating, and then we talked about cohabitating, all of it is considered sin. That brings us right back to being married. So and when we look at the sexuality part, so many people, there's a stigma. They say, oh, those Christians, their idea of sexuality, and they probably only get together and just do, the missionary way, and just only get together to procreate, and that's it, because they think sex is. On the contrary, God created intimacy, He created sexuality, and when you're married, let the marriage bed be undefiled. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a time where you're allowed to go to Victoria's Secret or something and buy something that will attract your husband. That you and things like that. You can be flirty with each other out in public and not have to worry. I mean, within reason, and that goes
Yeah,
for
no
anybody. But
not extreme PDA here.
yeah, so um that's the time you can do all of that stuff, and that's pretty much why uh relationships die and are fooled, because they get into something, as I heard it, and it's perfect. Don't, and this goes for men and women, don't give your boyfriend, don't give your girlfriend husband and wife privileges. Your boyfriend and
All right.
girlfriend, don't give them that. So, and I'm going to read just one little thing, and this is from my textbook, and it's called The Gift of Sex, A Guide to Sexual Fulfillment, and it's from Clifford and Joyce Penner. And it talks about sexuality, intimacy, and problems within a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it says here, God's plan: sexual. by creation. Sexuality is part of God's plan of creation. Our maleness and femaleness, our sexuality, is not something added on or part of our sinful natures. It is part of the original perfect creation of mankind. It's in our bones. By implication, then, our sexuality is nothing to be ashamed of, but rather something to enjoy. When you are married.
Amen. Hmm. That kind of goes along with what I learned last Sunday morning. The teacher touched on marriage, and he was talking about Adam and Eve. And I was just telling you earlier, I think it was yesterday, I was telling you that I've heard so many times God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And the bone of the when God took the rib out of Adam and created Eve, there was to be bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And where two of you are gathered, let no man put asunder. And that's where the sex comes in. Is you got to be careful, because when man or God did not create man to be with man or woman to be with woman. It's man and woman, or man and woman, not women, woman. Oh, my tongue is twisted today, so I just wanted to clarify that. But um,
Sorry, I keep
but you
sitting back.
see, where that got all messed up in the Garden of Eden was when Satan. We read that verse. I think it's in Romans where um, he seek. Wait, I think it's Peter, where he's roaming around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Well, back in Genesis, he was a snake, and he deceived Eve, and Eve, obviously gave the fruit to Adam, and so he's out there deceiving people, whether you're engaged or whether you're just dating. He's going to try to do everything he can, push buttons, and to try to get either one to do more than they should during a date. And I was always told this back in the old days, is that when God is in the center of it, things are going to go well. Meaning, some people have even put Bibles in their car in between the man and the woman, and I'm like, wow, I've never heard of that one before, but it works. Because then all of a sudden they like, well, here you have a Bible in between you, and you just you got to be careful. And the flesh will get in there, Satan will get in there and try to push buttons.
Exactly, exactly. And as we talked about in our previous things, it's um the tree of knowledge was in the midst of the Garden of Eden, and midst
Right,
means middle. So they've had to walk past this all the time if it's right smack dab in the middle. you know
right,
and a lot of people like, oh, well, how do you deal with this? Well, you have to deal with it. Well, first of all, you know we're human. You're Christian or not, we're human. We have those. What makes us different, what makes us set apart, is when we come up against temptation. You could take somebody who's not a Christian and a Christian, and the difference in there is how they respond to it. Some will see that is what, excuse me, that is what Eve's problem was. She spent too much time too close to that tree. you
yep,
know she should have just went past him. And the more that you start spending a little more time and a little, sin is gradual. To fall into temptations, it's gradual. It doesn't just wham and they're like, wow, how did I get here? It's a gradual working. And I hate using this because it's a really sad thing against frogs, but it's the boiled frog analogy. You put the frog in the water and then you just turn the heat on. The frog's not going to leap out. It's like nice. And then the water gets warm. and it gets hotter and hotter, and pretty soon it's boiling. The frog can't get out. It's too late. It's too late. But it's been a, a, a gradual process and worked its way into that situation. And people don't. That's why. That's why premarital counseling and even marriage counseling is so good to go to. And it's that's why counselors are there, because when you're married and you're having issues and you cannot seem to work things out, you're just having trouble communication and stuff, go to your Christian counselor, go to a pastoral counselor, um, and that's trained, that can kind of refresh, revive, and because that's the thing, you fight for it. And when we're talking about the sexuality part of it, um, that's a big important thing. The intimacy, it's a bonding, but also too, intimacy is very important. Intimacy is not always sex. Intimacy is other things. Intimacy is just holding hands. Intimacy is, you're sitting there and say and then you're stroking your wife's hair, or your wife comes and just rubs your neck and out of for no reason, or walking past you and just has to give you a squeeze as she's just walked past, really busy. It's those little things, intimacy. But see, that can only be captured really in a marriage. But the thing
Hmm.
that I really want, that stands out here, it makes a big difference, because when you're cohabitating, remember when I said you don't abide by the same commitments that you have when marriage.
Right.
This says leave, cleave, where God has joined together, joined, cleaved, glued, stuck together. So, I mean, he's like, bam, you're stuck. You know,
Yep.
let no man put asunder. That you don't have that. You don't have that commitment when you're living with somebody. You're not making that covenanted commitment to God. It's also the marriage itself, the marriage covenant is also a reflection of the relationship you have with the Lord.
Hmm.
And it's a covenant. That's why it's different. That's why it's when we bring it all back, it all comes back to marriage, with sexuality for Christians. And people go, oh, you have to wait till you're married. Yeah, you can't do that. Well, there's a reason why. And what we did in this series is we proved our point, you know?
Yep. It all leads to one, or it should all lead into one. I'm not saying anything. We need to explore with each other in marriage and find out more about that person before we jump into anything more serious, because and I've learned in the past that if you jump in too quick and you think, oh yeah, I already know this person, oh, I love them because they did this, and then the true colors come out after you're married, that's not then it's too late.
Exactly.
Because
Then you can go and get counseling, but that's why premarital counseling is so necessary. I can't tell people enough. And I don't care if you're on your second marriage or your third marriage. Each person is different, each relationship is different. And you need and the counseling and the class and the group, it really helps you to learn your partner, because a lot of times there's stuff that you just miss, you don't talk about, because
right,
and it's not
baggage is what
uncommon.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I remember we talked about that yesterday with baggage. That is something that I would say I would put a big red light on and go, I I care about you a lot, but I can tell that you have a lot of baggage from your last relationship. You need to deal with that first before you can even go forward.
That's true.
How I learned it was is as a suitcase, okay? And you have a suitcase and it's packed with winter booties, Uggs, thick sweaters, jeans, gloves, hat, winter coat. Okay, you for Colorado. You packed for Colorado. Your suitcase had, now your new destination is Miami, Florida. And you haven't unpacked your bag. You grab the suitcase and you go down to Miami. Well, you're not going to be good to yourself or anybody else when your suitcase is full of clothing from something else. It's not even going to work. You need to empty that out. Can't go forward with the stuff that's in your suitcase. You have to unpack it. Some of the
Hmm.
stuff you can even throw away. Unpack it, then you're ready. You got a pure, clean, empty suitcase that you can fill with new things. And if you don't, you're gonna you're gonna tar an innocent person with the hurt that the other person
Hmm.
did to you, and that's not fair. That's not
That's right.
fair. And a lot of, and I hate to say this, but it happens. A lot of hurt men and women will go, well, I'll tell you what, my next relationship, I am not going to take this and this, and I'm going to be like, so all of a sudden, this person who was never like anybody else, like your past person, who's giving and loving everything that you've wanted in a person, you're now taking out all the punishment on this person that doesn't even deserve it instead of the person who did actually hurt you, and that's not fair. It's really not fair. And then that relationship crumbles and you're like, see, I can't, can't have a relationship. It's like, no, you have to clean out your closet. You have to you have to examine yourself and get rid of all that past garbage. That's why it's good. That's why it's really good after you have a breakup to have some downtime. It's like so many people are like, as soon as you break up with somebody, it's like doing square dancing and do-si do, and you go from one part and then you grab the other person's hand and you're
Yeah,
ready
I know
to
what that's
start
called.
off with another one. Yeah. So, yeah, and then, but the bad thing is they rebound. They this is true. They
You're a
say
relationship bouncer.
the best way to get over a breakup, no lie. They say this, society, best way to get over a breakup is go out and find somebody to sleep with. And that will,
Yeah. Hmm.
what? See what I mean? They take,
Yeah.
they take, they use sexuality as like a cure all, like uh, you know, not like a band aid or like it's going to fix everything, but they don't even realize what's entailed in all that. Remember when we talked about you don't know what spirit you're mixing with
Hmm.
when you
That's
sleep with
true
somebody? And
because
remember
they
our
can
the
be
scares in the
definitely
night in the
wrong.
80s? Yeah,
What was that?
remember the scares in the 80s about AIDS?
Hmm.
You don't know who you're with, and they may not be, but who were they with? And this person, and then the domino effect. Well, you when you what did they used to say? When you sleep with this person, you slept with this person, this person, this person, this everybody else, but you don't know the condition of their spirit. They could be just really bad, and that yuck, that spirit clings on to yours. And
Hmm.
then now you're having all this. Now you got to go get some deliverance and get cleansed from it. That's why. That is why we need the church and Christians need to push that and with the, oh no, we Christians, we wait till we're married. No, put it out there in real time, like we've been talking about. This is why we wait until we're married. This is the reasons why we wait. And sexuality in a Christian marriage is crazy wonderful.
It
And
is.
you know, and it's beautiful, and it's you got your intimacy, you got your trust, you have, it's just the whole thing. You can be married for 30 years and still want to want to just you look at your wife or you look at your husband and go, "Oh, I just love this man. Oh, I just love this woman," and you're still just as attracted to them as when you first met them. That's what the Lord does.
Right.
That's what's
That
different.
beauty of that relationship never gets stale as long as you are having the relationship that you should, and having the Bible. When I talked about the Bible in between the man and the woman, um, if you're not in the Word, um, constantly in the Word day by day, to start out your marriage or start out your day as a man and wife, um, then you're going to have difficulty throughout the day. Well, I'm not saying that you, even if you do read the Word, you're still going to have your difficulties, but it's going to be easier to deal with.
Exactly. And the thing is that people get hung up is reality is honeymoon phase lasts 2 years. After that, marriage kicks in to real time. Welcome to the reality of married life. This is married life. And they have books like your the five love languages and such, so that that's when it becomes your work. You work to do what the Lord said for you to do about your wife. Love her, cherish her, give her things that make her happy. Be there for her, and the wife will just return it. You do good for, she returns it, and then you just keep you know out just keep doing back and forth for each other. And then you it is work. It
Hmm.
is work, but there's so many people that think right after the honeymoon phase is over, the 2 years, oh, he doesn't look at me the same anymore, the way they used to. Oh, she's just too big. She doesn't. Things have changed in the last 2 years. I don't think our marriage is. And it's like, hello, you just stepped into marriage. It's just no different than these women who
It's
are
real
excited.
life.
They love being pregnant. It's all the excitement. Then they have the baby and everything's new, and then all of a sudden all the newness is over, and the baby is here, and the baby is crying at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't get much sleep. The reality of baby is here. Same with marriage. Everybody, a lot of women are in love with the wedding. They're in love with the wedding. They want to be the bride. And then when marriage, like, we're married now, let's kick into marriage. Let's kick into the wedding. Or we're out of the wedding, let's kick into marriage. Oh, I don't like this. What happened to all the
The
bubbles and
glit-
hearts and, all that stuff? And it's like, well, you could still have that, but now you are. That's why you need marriage, premarital counseling, and just learning about what marriage actually is, and learning about the whole concept of sexuality, and keeping sexuality within the bounds of marriage. So, um,
which is,
and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say that's, if you've seen and you've been watching how we went through all these different phases and stages of um, sexuality in Christianity, you can see how all the roads led back to waiting to be married. And if you're dating, hopefully you'll keep all this information in the forefront of your mind, because it's not you being prude, it's not you being religious, when they go, oh yeah, well, she's a church girl, she don't, you're not going to get nothing from her, or you're going to have to wait, or those religious people. You hear it, all that stuff, and it's like, well, here's the reasons why. you know because we don't want to make the same mistakes. We want to do things right, and that's how you do things right. And we need to more people need to be teaching this in the church, even from the pulpit, talk about it. Talk about why, not just, oh, put a pillow between you. And it's like, well, why? Why is it so bad? And especially, I'll tell you where you get the most run in is with people who have been married, like you seen when we in the single mingles that we attended. There was a lot of people who were divorced there,
Hmm.
and they're like, "Come on, we're adults. We don't need to be going through this anymore. We're adults. We're grown adults. We know what we're doing. We know." And it's like,
Right.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. And this whole thing about it should be taught. It should be out there. And that's the difference in Christians. That's why Christians wait. That's why Christians, most Christians don't live, decide to cohabitate. And that's growing in the Christian community, sadly. But hopefully that is going to, that they're going to wake up and come out of that thinking, and choose to wait until they're married for that. So
Yeah, and uh, people sometimes when they're dating or they're engaged, they think, oh well, we're engaged, and so that engagement period really is just to get to know one another and find out about one another, not in a sexual way, but just to find out about that person, what their life is like. And I go back to that analogy of, the boy always looks to the mother to see how you're going to be treated. I think that's the way it is. I might be wrong, but it's just like just I think it's the other way around. But anyway, I guess my point is you look to others and to get that help, because there are churches and there are ministries that do have marriage counseling, or they have groups where you can join and learn more about your marriage, whether it's premarital counseling or whether it's marriage counseling. And there are marriage retreats as well. There's marriage retreats all over. You just gotta look on the internet and find the one closest to you. And you know what? Sometimes it's not bad to even go 3 or 4 hours away. It's like you need to get away for a weekend. That's perfect. That's a perfect weekend getaway as a marriage retreat.
now, why do you think they have marriage retreats?
Well, the marriage retreats are supposed to not just be all fun and games, but to actually get together with other married couples and learn about each other and find out different ways of how you can build a relationship in that marriage.
See, that that's with them having marriage retreats and married groups, that teaches, right there, that's teaching you how to keep your marriage strong, how to talk to your
Right.
spouse about things, how to, you know and then when you get away and you have the time, and then you talk with other other married couples, and go, I've had trouble with this. Oh, we did that, we did too. Or you could talk to other wives, you can talk, husbands can talk. So that continues to build that your marriage, and make it stronger and stronger. Again, and I can't stress this enough. Again, commitments that you don't have to adhere to when you are in a cohabitation relationship. You don't have to deal with any of that. You know, in the very back of your mind, unless you have kids and you got to deal with the front of the cord or whatever, that kind of thing. Um, but at any given time, if you decide, you know what, I think, I want to see other people. We're just living together, so I'm going to walk. And they can walk. There's no commitments there. There's no
Hmm.
real commitments there. And
Right.
so, and they always have, and that that door is never, lock. There's no lock of commitment in there. Now, there's some that swear, "Oh, we lived together for so many years, and then we got married, and we're still married." It's like, well, you got married, so that's the good thing. But and again, to Christians out there, if you decide to cohabitate, God does not see anything in your relationship except sinning, fornication. That's all he sees. That's all you're doing. You're playing house. You're not married. So the Lord's not going to bless that. You have to
It's
remember
true.
that. So,
Yeah, so as we wrap up, it's getting time to wrap up. But stay tuned, please, for Trials and Triumphs with Pastor Ladina Boo. I don't know who our guest is, but anyway, it's a great program. You need to stay tuned for whoever she has on that's coming up next, right after our show, High Octane. And Cindy, thanks again for helping us realize Christianity and sexuality does go together, but in a way to where it all leads to marriage, and that's where the sexuality and the Christianity meet. The idea of living together, cohabitation, um, that's obviously wrong. And but if you're struggling, folks, if you're as I wrap up, if you're struggling, whether it's in your marriage, whether you're engaged in your, uh, you have questions, it's better to get those questions answered and seek the Lord first. Get into the Bible, get in God's Word, and find out what you need to do. You can always write to us. I think it's Dr. Cindy, isn't it? What is it?
yep,
What's your email? Okay,
Dr.
Dr. Cindy
Cindy.
at at axmediagroup.com, and I'm Pastor Steve at axmediagroup.com. So
Why
you're
don't you
always
repeat
welcome
that
to.
again?
Sure. It's Dr. Cindy at axmediagroup.com and Pastor Steve at axmedia.com, axmediagroup.com. And feel free to ask questions and talk to one of it. We're here to help you out. That's what we're here for. And Cindy, do you have any um, last thoughts?
My last thoughts are, if you've missed any of these phases, where can they catch them, Steve?
Axmediagroup.com. You can go there and scroll down to High Octane, or you can actually go to YouTube as well and look for High Octane or X Media Group, and there should be a list of all the shows there and the past episodes.
What are we doing next week?
Well, next week we're going to start a new series, and I think we're going to start in on. Oh shoot, Cindy, do you remember? I don't think we
What we're
really.
doing is Steve came up with the idea that usually our series was we did the 4 weeks. But since we have an extra Wednesday in August, Steve came up with the idea that we will
Oh, question
do a question and answer.
Q&A.
So
That's
if
right.
you like to call in, write in your questions, um, you know, that you'd like to ask us, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to answer your questions. So you know um, again, if any of these topics we have talked about have affected you, or you have questions, again, get a hold of me or Steve, Pastor Steve at xmediagroup.com, or me, Dr. Cindy, at xmedia I'm doing it too, dang it.
I got you doing it. I'm sorry. Well,
Dr.
with
Cindy
that,
at xmediagroup.com.
with that, God bless you. I'm Steve, Pastor Steve,
And I'm
and,
Dr. Cindy.
and this has been High Octane, and
See you
we're
later.
looking forward, huh? We're looking
I
forward
said, see
to
you later.
See you later. See you later. I just want to add something here. Um, we really appreciate each and every one of you, and we're just so glad. I'm so glad I'm coming up on 4 years myself here at X Media Group, and so I went through several phases, and so this has been high octane.